The Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO, last month announced plans to venture into the internet service provision business. This after the firm was granted a network facility provider Tier 2 license by the Communications Authority of Kenya. KETRACO currently uses optical ground wire technology for its operations, which has the capacity to transmit data. The transmission firm plans to lease out excess fiber capacity to network operators and generate revenue from the same. KETRACO has a transmission network of 1,115 kilometers, with a further 7,000 kilometers of transmission lines expected over the next 5 years. With its transmission lines passing through remote parts of the country, the firm will be able to expand the country's fiber optic network. All right, let's talk more about these developments in KETRACO. Joining me in studio now is Fernandez Baraza, who's the Managing Director at KETRACO. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Let's begin with letting us know what informed this diversification.
First and foremost, we appreciate the fact that we already have high voltage lines which have that optical cable. And when you look at the investment which we have put in, there's a lot of idle capacity. Because out of, let's say, 48 cores that are already on the fiber, we're only using 6 of them. So there is a surplus of 42 that we thought is important for them to be put into good use. And by being put in good use, we're talking about having the dark fiber that we sell to the telecom companies, and then we also have the lit fiber. Yeah.
So what will this mean in as far as electricity and energy in Kenya, what it is you need to put in, what's already available, and how you work with the other institutions in the energy sector?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost on the fiber, with regard to transmission, what the fiber does is that provides security and also facilitate communication through SCADA. Now, the fact that we are having idle capacity, we already have 1,200 kilometers of the lines which are already strung. Out of these 1,200 kilometers, we have now the surplus capacity that we are now partnering with telecom companies like Safaricom, Jamii Telecom. And by partnering with them, we have already agreements that we are going to have them signed off. And this now will activate some of the areas where they have never had the broadband fiber.
Yeah.
Some of the areas like Garissa, for example, where we have now taken our lines. This now will spur the economic development because Safaricom and other telecom companies will also have their fiber connected to our lines, which has sprung across the board.
All right.
That is number one. At national level, it's also important to appreciate that Kenya is now moving to the 4G network, and our fiber now will become very important because of the reliability, and it will also affect the growth in terms of communication.
Yeah.
And also the low cost of production and communication. So it's something that we are very excited about because we already have the infrastructure, and it's just important to sweat the assets so that at least you, on the flip side, as you get more revenue, you're also helping the government to achieve their connectivity program.
Right.
Yeah.
So in these areas where you already have infrastructure set up, is there a demand for this new service you're seeking to offer? Well,
I can tell you the demand is there. And one thing I can just emphasize is the demand we are talking about is actually created by supply. Because we don't have demand where there's no supply. There's something called suppressed demand.
Okay.
And now that we have supply of the fiber cables in Garissa, now that definitely creates demand.
All right.
There are areas where we've never had the transmission lines, for example in Lamu, where we just energized the high voltage line 2 years ago. That again has attracted Safaricom to come and put their masks there. So what happens is, as much as we move towards areas where we don't have transmission lines, definitely now the lines become effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this move to complete a large-scale high-voltage power line between Nairobi and Mombasa, and whether to ordinary mwananchi as KETRACO you can say that will mean bringing down the price of power.
Okay.
Yeah.
I must say that Mombasa-Nairobi line is one of the flagship projects. is actually a 485-kilometer line, almost 20 billion Kenya shillings. And when you look at this line, we are almost there because we have done 99%. And what it will happen is, number one, because of this Mombasa-Nairobi line, we are going to be able to remit power from geothermal.
Right.
That's already generated. Now that power can move to Mombasa. Now, on the flip side, Mombasa is currently served by geothermal, by thermal generators. That's fuel, and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
The cost per month, actually, which is supported by GOK, is around 300 million Kenya shillings. So once we move this power to Mombasa,
right,
the first impact will be we switch off Kipevu, that is now fired by diesel, and that will have a direct impact on the fuel cost charge on the bill. So we are talking about almost 20% reduction in the cost of the tariff.
Yeah. So ordinary Mwananchi will feel this reduction.
Exactly.
All right. And then there's been a feeling that largely we've seen underinvestment when it comes to infrastructure and distribution of the same for a long time. Have things changed?
I must say things have changed because there are many investment partners who have come on board. When you look at our investment portfolio at the moment, we are talking about almost 200 billion Kenya shillings.
Right.
And we also have other investment partners coming on board. Of course, Chinese are always there. We're also having other Indian companies and banks. And we're also going out of our way to encourage other investment banks from Europe. So there's a bit of diversification on the investment portfolio.
Yeah.
And right now, the challenge now that we're trying to cope with is to provide counterpart funding.
Okay.
Because ideally, when you get money from the development partners, the government of Kenya must provide counterpart funding for issues of right of way. So that's what is actually the challenge right now because of the 30-70% proportion.
Okay.
But I can say we have a lot of money available. The only issue is now how to spread the money and how to prioritize projects because we are almost implementing projects across the country. Right now, we're implementing over 25 projects. Over 40% of them are huge projects for 400 kV. And the money is there. In fact, some projects are financed by more than 2 financiers.
Yeah.
For example, even the Mombasa-Nairobi we are talking about, it is financed by 3 financiers plus GOK.
All right.
Ethiopia Kenya is also financed with that interconnector. It's a $1 billion US dollar project financed by 3 financiers. So the money is there. The only issue is how to apply on the projects.
What updates can you give us on the Lake Turkana wind project? Because it's understood that the project in itself is complete, but there's an issue of the power line not being in place or complete. Okay. Yeah.
Now, we had a few issues with the right of way, but now they've been resolved.
Okay.
What we are doing as KETRACO is now to accelerate the completion of the line. We already have an acceleration program that we have put in place so that instead of only using 10 subcontractors, now we have doubled the number.
Right.
So that we can catch up with time in order to have this line completed at least in the next 2 months. So I'm confident with the acceleration program that we have in place, at least we'll be able to complete the line by 30th of June this year.
Yeah. And what is it you have in place in terms of plans to ensure going forward you're able to cohesively work with communities where your lines are passing so that you avoid this kind of delays that you've witnessed? Yeah.
Actually, that's one of the areas which I can say we have lessons learned.
Yeah.
And one of the things which I can tell you is partnering with all the key stakeholders, starting from the county governments.
Right.
We have a very proactive resettlement action plan program where we do sensitization of the landowners. We have also brought on board a National Land Commission because that's now the constitutional body mandated to do a wave acquisition.
Right.
So we're working closely with them from the onset. Instead of going to them when you have problems, we have started now working with them so that when we have now the challenges, we actually solve them together.
Okay.
But more important is about sensitization of the landowners so that they can appreciate the socio-economic benefits that will accrue from these projects.
All right.
Yeah.
Many thanks. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you very
with
much.
us
All right.
on Worldview. Fernandez Baraza is the manager.